I'm sick, so if I sound terrible, that's what's going on. But I did not want to miss out on the fact that Transformers finally won our user poll on Patreon. For those of you not aware, every Monday I drop on Patreon a poll of what I'm going to be drawing for a Wednesday video. That poll ends on Tuesday, which means I have less than a day to get an entire video done. But that also gets me to kind of use my brain in different ways. So being that we were kind of crunched on time for this Transformers video, I decided I need to focus not on the thousands of characters who exist across comics, movies, TV shows, merchandise, video games, but instead focus on the characters who a lot of us have recently become more acquainted with. That being Optimus Prime, Megatron, Elita 1, and Bumblebee. And with Transformers 1 being the amazing, spectacular movie that it is, that really captured the things that it needed to in the lore and played around with things that it was allowed to, I think this is a great start. So today we're going to be hopping into Transformers as Pokemon. Let's get started. Hello, I'm the Thesterninator, but my friends call me
Badassatron.
And welcome to the channel. While you're here, don't forget to drop down below and like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff that makes me and YouTube very happy, and let's get started. Up first, we have fan favorite Bumblebee. I took this one on first because honestly, I knew it would be the easiest. Most of the time when trying to create a Fakemon, it's thinking about what animal best represents the idea or concept that you're going for, and for Bumblebee, that was pretty easy. But I wanted to add in a couple more extra ideas here and there. For example, I wanted to make sure that the shape felt vaguely Volkswagen Beetle-esque. So you can see I went with that little head and that larger back area there, very much akin to an actual Bumblebee, but utilizing the black stripe pattern across the back, which would normally be a stripe on a bee, into almost like a windshield-like design. I wanted to use the wings and the shape of them to mimic doors that were sliding open, almost like butterfly doors, but this is a Bumblebee. I also gave it those fat little legs that bumblebees tend to have, but made sure to make them look more so like tires. So a couple things here that were able to work, in my opinion, really, really well. I think I was able to capture that car type of aesthetic without going full Rev-a-Vroom, and I dig that. I think it really works. I even wanted to make the eyes kind of the shape of the wheel well that you see on Volkswagen Beetles, so they kind of wrap around. I started to realize actually that it kind of looked very similar to Mega Beedrill, and I think I'm okay with that. I think that it's far enough away while still having a couple of the main concepts that it can look similar but just not identical. I gave it these doubled eyes just to kind of hint at that headlight type of look, and I think it works. I am a huge fan of this design. I went in really curious how this idea was going to portray itself, and it ended up being something that I can say I'm really proud of. I really, really like this design, which is cool because Bumblebee is a fan favorite. People like Bumblebee. Fun fact, he was kind of a nobody in the original series. Mirage actually took the spot of the insert character for kind of the main group, but people tended to like Bumblebee and really grew that he was a mainstay, so when the movies came out, they made sure to give him a prominent part. Regardless, this is Bumblebee, the bug Pokemon. For the shiny, I went with this green and purple color, which I'm sure a lot of you are noticing, oh, those are Decepticon colors. But in reality, I went with making it look more like Waspinator, a character from Beast Wars, who was really cool. He was a wasp, turned into a big wasp, and yeah, not much more to say on that. Moving on though, I started to think about what these would look like as they evolved. You can't really do Transformers without making your Pokemon change in some way. So all of these are going to have at least one evolution. I thought, how can I make this transcribe itself and appear as though it were a Transformer-inspired design? So I decided to use a lot of the same shapes. I thought, what if upon evolution of this Pokemon, rather than fully changing in that glowing magical white light that we often see, its pieces and parts actually morph around. So the head is very much the same shape, just kind of flipped around. The body is very much the same shape as the thorax and abdomen of the previous version. Even the hands are the wheels now split to create these finger-like extremities. And even if you look at the left and right arm, they're able to flip around so that what once were little tiny pincers are now a hand, or becoming this long stinger-like appendage, which Bumblebee is known for having. I played around a lot with what to do with the legs. I wanted to incorporate something that wasn't just straightforward, okay, now he's a big man. So I decided to instead take away the legs, utilizing those shapes to further that wheel well inspiration on the shoulders, and create the wings now grafting out of this lower extremity to make it almost appear that they were handlebar shaped, almost like exhaust pipes even. So the point where he is able to generate motion, very much with a car, is where the exhaust pipes would be, and these wings very much reminiscent of those same type of pipes. I was able to turn those pincer type things that we see in the first design on the little legs into these antennas, which also kind of appear almost like mirrors that you'd see on the side of a car. So I think that I was able to move around a lot of things to make this feel very vehicle-esque without just being a car as a Pokemon. It turned out to be really difficult, but I really liked the way that the designs worked out, allowed me to flex my brain a little bit more in areas that I'm not used to, and ultimately created a pretty cool Pokemon. I like the idea that it doesn't have these legs because it makes it feel like it's a character that's in motion, really focused on speed and movement, and the stats will reflect that. I think that it works. I'm very cautious on it because it was so many ideas, but this is Bombarby. Bombarby's name is a mix of bombardment and bee. It is now a bug flying type, and like I said, you can see that speed stat really bump up with that shiny still maintaining that green and purple color to remind us of that Waspinator type of inspiration. I think it's a fun design and very different from what I'm used to. For the next design, I wanted to go with something a little bit more angular. I went with a Megatron inspired design and played around with what I wanted to do and how I wanted to make this work. Big robot with gun arm is kind of difficult to translate into a Pokemon, so I looked at the animal kingdom for things that could inspire me a little bit further. I thought about how fiddler crabs will often have one larger claw, and I thought, well, that kind of works for that whole gun arm thing that Megatron's known for. So I decided to put it very angular, make the claw seem way bigger than it actually is because it's pointed at you. So I went with that idea, and I really like it. I think utilizing the very important and very iconic helmet of Megatron as the base body for this crab really works in a couple different ways. It makes it feel stony, makes it feel protected. It's a helmet after all, and I feel like there was a ton of fun that I had with this design. I even got to turn the legs of a crab into these treads, which informed a lot of the design moving forward. I went with a version of Megatron that is very akin to the early series of Transformers back in the 80s, so it may be something that you may not be super familiar with, but it is something that is very near and dear to my heart. In case you didn't know, back then, Megatron didn't turn into a tank, he didn't turn into a plane, he turned into a pistol that Starscream actually shot. So imagine this. Your second in command very desperately wants you dead so that they could take over and become the leader of this evil team because they believe that they are the most evil and most worthy, and your transformation is responsible for them, so they have to be able to utilize you. It felt weird, it felt awkward, and I think that's kind of why this design feels weird and awkward as well. It's a weapon that is almost not even a useful weapon. Early Megatron had a lot that he had to get through. It was very much more about the toys being sold than about the actual lore of Transformers, and I think this one really suffices that prompt. I kind of dig it. I think it's really cool. I like the colors utilized, feels very Decepticon. And so this is Megatrack, the name being inspired by Megatron and tracks, which are the sections of tread on a tank, very much akin to what you see with the feet there. For the shiny, I was just making it more Decepticon inspired by making it purple. Tends to be his color. He's a rock steel type for reasons that we'll see in just a little bit. But as we move on, I knew that I had to evolve him. Like I said, what's the point of having a Transformer if it doesn't change, right? So I had to evolve him, and I thought, well, when Megatron evolves, he becomes Galvatron. So I took that into account, took that into inspiration here, and decided I'm gonna make this thing bigger in so many different ways. Number one is I wanted to polish up the design a little bit. Make it not so lopsided, which is the intent of a Fiddler Crab based design. He has that big gun arm. So I decided instead to put this over the top, make it feel more like a tank than an actual little pistol. You know, I think we can all agree the whole thing where he turns into a pistol and is utilized by someone else is okay, but I think that we've come a long way in that time in making him turn into a tank or a jet or a plane or whatever. So now I wanted to evolve that. Little pistol becomes giant tank, turning into this different form with the helmet still very much visualized in that essence, but utilized in a couple different ways. The treads now extend into 4 different treads, which are very common in Cybertronian technology, having those tank treads that almost look like spider legs. It's really cool. I have a Shockwave toy that a friend got me up on a shelf behind me. I look at it all the time, and whenever you transform it, it gets those types of treads. And I really, really like that, so I wanted to incorporate it in some way. It's a fun design element that Transformers brought in with their ideas that I wanted to carry over into this design as well. Really happy to do so. I also looked at Transformers 1, where we see in the end of the film, spoilers, Megatron gets a new type of cannon. As he absorbs that transformation cog, he takes on this new form, gets this new gun. Rather than being the single barrel, rounded edge that we're used to, it actually becomes a tri-cannon. So it actually has this triangle shape. I wanted to emulate that, get that in with this concept and design. And yeah, I wanted to play around a little bit more with some of the aspects on how it would work, some of the technology. I tend to overthink these mechanical weapons a lot and how they would function, so I had to kind of step back and let Galvatrak do its thing. Galvatrak's name comes from Galvatron, and track, much like before, that purple hue for the shiny is a reference to Galvatron, who is blue and purple for some reason. I don't know. When I think of villains, I don't often think of Periwinkle. Hi, I want to take a second to talk about today's sponsors. It's me. I'm the sponsor. So, recently I made the decision to quit my day job and do this full time. Hold on. One of the big things about that is I'm going to start taking a lot of these things more seriously. I've already updated my Patreon tiers so that you get more for every tier that you access, as well as I drop a lot of stuff on Ko-fi, where when I have a design that I know I'm not going to use in my own personal fan game, I put it over there. So you're actually able to buy some of these designs. I have all the links to that stuff down below, so check those out, see what individual perks you get from joining each of those membership tiers, and I'll let you get back to the Transformers. Transforming and rolling out, the next move is going to be to work on Alita 1. I'm going to be honest, I have to keep reminding myself that this isn't RC. For some reason, Alita 1, despite being one of the earliest Transformers ever brought in, specifically I believe she was the first female Transformers brought into the 80s show. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong. I often see her getting overshadowed by RC, who just people tend to see a lot more often. You see more toys. I think she was brought into even the Michael Bay Transformers movies earlier with being that motorcycle one-wheeled type of thing. So this is Alita 1. Very cool character voiced by Scarlett Johansson, who was a huge part of Transformers 1. So pumped to see her finally get her spotlight as this character and be able to see her kind of show up in a lot more mainstream media, toys, action figures, things like that. I decided that in the design I wanted to take that motorcycle or bike inspiration and play with it in a couple different ways. I wanted to make something that could grow and change as it evolved, so I had to start with something much more simple. I thought of this idea because I want to keep it having that feminine energy of it having these pigtail-like blades that are able to move and rotate like tires. So this Pokemon actually doesn't have legs, but does roll around on these pigtail-like extremities, and I think it's really cool. I had to make it pink, I had to make it yellow. While it does kind of get over fairy-fied, I think that it's fun. It's just a fun design. I could go all day explaining why I think this or that would work. Ultimately, it was a ton of fun, and I'm really excited for what it's able to turn into, given the track that we were able to take this initial form. So this is Rolita, a fairy steel type. It has a big bump in that special defense, and it's going to get even stronger, as you can imagine. For the shiny, I went with RC colors, specifically the ones from the show Transformers Prime, because even prior to that, RC and Alita 1 were the same colors, so I went with something to kind of give it a little bit more variation. Moving on, she has to evolve, and I am so proud of what I was able to do with this design. I know I'm tooting my own horn. I know I'm, saying, oh, I really love it. It came out really good. I'm so proud of this design. It brings in so many things that accept that feminine energy, that girl power type of motif, that transforming quality, as well as bringing in some inspiration from the Michael Bay movies, as well as Transformers 1. I went with this unicycle type design, almost with this Spartan soldier inspired helmet that's very similar to the one that Alita wears, just putting that fin on top. And actually, if you pay attention, look closely, this is a motorcycle turned on its side. That fin on top functioning as the front wheel, that fin on the bottom, that unicycle type thing, as the back wheel. And I moved her hands into this praying mantis type move because praying mantises are known for eating their husbands. What bug more represents girl power than that? And so she has her hands up so that you're able to see these handlebars jumping out from the back of the arms. Ultimately, she is just a motorcycle, and I dig that. I think that's super cool. It was something that kind of came about by accident, and I was able to roll with that as I continued down the design, thinking, okay, this kind of looks like a motorcycle. Well, let's make it look super like a motorcycle. It kind of looks like a praying mantis. Well, let's make it look super like a praying mantis. So many ideas were able to be brought in here just from the fluidity of going in, not knowing what I wanted to do. And I feel like it backtracks and makes the previous evolution make so much more sense. So this is Arcita, taking that combination of RC and Rita. Rather than roll, you think of an RC as remote controlled cars, usually. So what's better than rolling? Having a remote controlled little robot. So this is Arcita. Still fairy steel type, still having that RC inspired shiny, and it just looks great. I love it. It looks so fantastic. But we can't talk Transformers without popping into everyone's dad, Optimus Prime. Voiced by Peter Cullen for the past I don't know how many years, he is a staple. One of 2 winners of Nickelodeon's Lifetime Achievement Awards, Optimus Prime means the world to Transformers fans. Watching him die in the Transformers movie brought heartache and tears to theaters, and getting Rodimus Prime didn't soothe over, I don't think, anyone, but it was an amazing experience to be able to go back and watch that movie, because I wasn't born in the time period that it came out, but to be so in love with Transformers as a brand and see that and witness, wow, people actually really cared about this story, really cared about this character, is amazing. Because even today, we still care about this character. We care about Optimus Prime, whether it be Peter Cullen or a Hemsworth brother voicing him. Optimus is always Optimus, and the fact that the creators understand that, and the people who've taken the reins for future endeavors of this franchise seem to understand it as well, is amazing. For this design, I wanted to tackle that early days of Orion Pax type of feel. He's not smooth, he's not this big steel leader, he is a miner, M-I-N-E-R. He has a pickaxe rather than a regular fire axe, and he's made of rock, and I think it's great. He's designed, built with even a headlight in his chest where a transformation cog would be to help him better mine. Transforming, fighting, being a leader are not in the build of this creature, this thing. And it's just something that gets kind of thrust upon them, that they're able to take the reins on. But for the moment, they're nobody. And that's okay, I think. That's its own thing. I really liked the texture that I was able to do with these rocky elements, to the point that I carry it over in the next form as well. I initially went into this thinking, wouldn't it be cool if he went from this rocky, harsh exterior for a miner to this smooth, metal exterior for the second form? But I fell so in love with this rocky type of texture that we used, and how it was able to just exemplify what was already there, that I ended up carrying it over. A fun little experiment looking at how these textures play with the color, even going in and dulling the color to make him feel a little bit rockier, really helped me understand this character more. So this is Oripax, the name coming from ore and pickaxe, as well as Orion Pax, Optimus Prime's original name. He's a pure rock type, and for the shiny, I went with this grayish that not only looks more like stone, but is a reference to Nemesis Prime, the evil, darker half of Optimus, the one that he gets when he gets like brainwashed. But he didn't remain Orion Pax forever, so he had to evolve, he had to get bigger. And using what I learned and what I really enjoyed from that previous form of that rocky exterior, I decided to keep it. I thought that while I could just go big steel creature, okay, it's a transformer, so it should be steel electric type. Ooh, I decided I wanted to do something very different. I wanted to play with the design a little bit more. If you've watched my Five Nights at Freddy's series, then you'll know that I have this same struggle over there as well. Everything should be ghost or electric or steel, and finding ways to make them not feels like I'm taking something from the character. So how do you balance that? How do you balance that a character like Optimus Prime wouldn't be steel, wouldn't be electric, but still make it feel like that character? Because, I mean, if you do a Transformers region, isn't everything going to be steel or electric or psychic because of that cosmic energy? So here, I decided to go with this rocky type of feel. I thought that it would combat against our Megatron Pokemon really, really well, especially giving what you'll see at the end here. But I went in giving him this big stone axe, a big, giant stone monolith of a character. No one stands firmer in their beliefs than Optimus Prime, and I wanted something that brought that to full focus here. Like I said, I could have done electric, I could have done steel, decided against it because I want him to feel unique. And so I went in, played with those textures as I did before, made stuff work, and I'm happy with what ends up coming out of this design. Sorry, I can't breathe through my nose, so speaking is difficult. So I ended up going with this, and I'm really happy with it. I think Optimus Prime as a character is fun. I got to utilize some fun colors despite him being stone and rock. Still brought in those blues and reds because it's not Optimus Prime without those colors. Michael Bay tried to say, hey, what if Optimus Prime was all blue and removed a ton of the red for some reason? I don't know. That's something that I realized recently. I've been going back and rewatching these movies in preparation for knowing that this prompt was going to eventually win for the week. And I realized Optimus Prime has like no red on him in those old Michael Bay movies. So I wanted to fix that. I wanted to make sure that he was truer to his actual form. So this is Optipax, his name coming from Pickaxe, Orion Pax, and Optimum, as well as Optimus. He's a rock fighting type. And for the shiny, I went not so much with the Nemesis Prime colors, but the Shattered Glass Comics colors, where we get to see what would happen if characters like Optimus Prime were actually Decepticons. So, final question. Which of these are you adding to your team? Who was your favorite? While you're there, head down to the comments and let me know who your favorite Transformers is, and help me by coming up with abilities for all of the characters we came up with today. You guys are a lot better at that than I am, so I'm always interested to see what you guys come up with. While you're down there in the comments, check out our description as well, where you can find our Discord, become a part of our community, like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Big shout out, big reps to some of our supporters here, specifically Kaylin Cat, Soren Frost, Stix TV, Jesse Badger, Teacup Cryptid, Dan Bush, Tony F, and Kofi supporter throughout the Ko-fi and the Patreon. Thank you guys so much for supporting, being a part of what makes these videos possible. You guys are the most. Before we go and before we wrap up today, I want to talk about our Advent calendar, which ran all through December, and showcase a couple of my favorite submissions that came through this past year. First off, we have Cithrin with this Furby-inspired Dedenne, which terrifies me every time I look at it. We have a Cootbird 41 with this amazingly cute Delibird. Aurora Fox came up with this Convergent Delphox or variant form. Azzy Cosplay coming in with one of my favorite Pokemon dressed as Santa always wins. Cookieless came out with this Rabsca design holding up a wreath. I love it. Edoc92 with a Mimikyu as a present. Can't go without Mimikyu in any of these videos. Evan the Frosty making a gingerbread cookie Sandygast. Goth Fox with this Naughty or Nice bug type that evolves based on Naughty or Nice. Gym Leader JC came in with a Regional Trevenant, which holds a special place in my heart. Inix XDFR for this design, so mischievous. We also have JT with a Scorpion Construction type Pokemon. Mice with an absolutely beautiful, gorgeous fungal elf. Ollie coming in with this Hollet Grass type berry. It's so mischievous. And when I gave the prompt, hey, do whatever you want, Original Ori came up with this guy. We also have Pichu, who came up with this little polar monkey, Diggum, and last but not least, we have Starry O Hez Q with this ice skating bird. Thank you guys so much for checking out the channel. I'll see you in the next one. You know where to find me. Bye.